Okay, so we are going to try to remove a background from an image. So I'm going to open up this file, okay, into Photoshop. So you should see something like this. Okay, so I want to show you a couple new features that were introduced with this contextual bar. However, once again, I do not want you relying on these buttons down here because sometimes if the background is very busy or has a lot of things going on, these will not work for you. Also, let's say you have a white background and maybe areas in here are almost the same color, it's also going to remove the areas in here. So that's why you have to be very careful with this. And that's why knowledge of the other selection tools like the lasso tool, the other tools will help you fix these problems, or the quick selection tool, right? So let me show you an example of this. So if I were to press select subject, which would select whatever the subject is, in this case, the peppers, you can see that a selection has been added. Okay, however, you can also see there's areas in here, like pockets in here, which tells me what's going to happen is if I were to remove the background, these areas will also be removed. And that's why I want you to be very careful. Now, in this case, in order to really see this properly, what I would advise you to do is go to select and mask area at the top. And here it helps you see, okay, you can kind of see a white area here, which did not remove. And I can also change my view up here. So I can change it to different views so you could see a little bit better. Or something like this, you could see that this is on a transparent background. You could see that this will be left basically gone. And up here, you could see better that the white background is still there, right? So this is where I would fix these areas before I even try to remove the background. So that's one thing I'd like you to take a look at. So you do have this area up here, which is your quick selection tool, which allows you to go in and either remove with the minus sign or add to your selection. So what I would do is I would zoom in like you normally would and see this area here that's little pockets or holes. I would add to this and I would make my brush much bigger, right? So in order to make your brush bigger here, a shortcut is if you look at your keyboard and press the square bracket bigger, and you can then go in and just kind of take that area and remove it. Now, if I want to double check, I'll go back to this area and you can see there's no white area here. But then here also, I fixed that. And then the last area that I saw was this area here. I might have to make my brush smaller. I'd like to remove this white area here. Okay, so that actually did a pretty good job. Now I can actually take the view back to the red, and this looks much better. Okay, much better than before. If I want to be very picky, I can also see that there's another white area right down here. It's very tiny, and I could try to fix that too. I'm going to make this smaller, make sure that this is on the minus, your quick selection tool, and just go in and just kind of little by little kind of fix that. And then you could fix more afterwards, but here is the very basic. I'm going to go and press OK. So all we've done there is fixed our selection. We didn't actually move the background. So with the quick selection tool or select subject tool, I now have to add a mask. Your mask tool looks like this. It is a square or rectangle with a circle in it. So you can find it here. You could also find it on the layers panel at the very bottom. So you got two places you can click on, okay? So I'm going to click on here, which allows you to add a mask. As you can see, the background has been hidden. That's what a mask is. And then technically, I can add another background. Let's say I wanted a completely different background color. I can go at the bottom here, which is next to the mask. It looks like half circle white and the rest is black. I would go in here and click on solid color or gradient, but I'm going to try solid color. And don't panic if you see, all the color go on top because it's your layers. All you would have to do is drag this down. But right now I'm going to choose a color And I'm going to press OK for now. And I'm going to click on this layer and drag it underneath, make sure it's behind the actual peppers. Okay. Now, if I don't like this color, just double click into the color again and go in, and you can just test it out by going into either the more saturated area or the lighter areas, right? And you will have to just drag the slider wherever you'd like, right? And kind of play with the different colors that it shows you. I'm going to choose like a bluish, just to give it more of a tropical feel. And when you're done, press OK. Okay, so that's essentially it here. And the only thing I would say is if you zoom in, do you see the edges of the pepper? It's kind of sharp or not looking as natural, right? So to soften the edges, what I would do is go to the layer where the pepper is, right? And go into the mask, which is the black area. When you click on this area in your properties, you will see another area that says feather. If you drag the slider, don't drag it too much, because if I go too much, this is what's going to happen, right? I don't want that. What I'd like to do is soften my edges just a little bit. And you can zoom in to see this better, right? So if I go back to 0, you can see it's much sharper. I'm just going to soften it little by little. I don't want to go too much. And that's essentially it. So it kind of softens the edge, makes it more of a smoother transition. Now I'm going to stop there. So I'm going to do this one more time. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the history. And here's your history. Everything I've done, I'm going to go back to the original image. Now, remove background would be the same. What we did first is this button here. Now I'm going to click on this. So it automatically, what this button does, it automatically skips some of the steps that we did, which sometimes isn't good, because look at what happened. This is the stuff that we didn't actually fix prior to making the mask. It just makes the mask right away. So with this one is a little more, I would say, I'm not going to say difficult, but challenging to fix. So what you would have to do here is go into the mask area. And the same way I showed you how to fix the eyes, right? You would have to go into the paintbrush, make sure that you have a decent size. So I'd like to add the pepper area here back into it. So my brush size is a little small. So you can go and make it much bigger, right? This is much better. The size, make sure hardness is set to 0. And then I would go in and make sure that my black fill is behind and the white is first. So click on the double arrowhead, and then I'm going to go in and I'll bring that back, right? Right here, the same thing. And then this area here, I remember we had the white portion, so I'm going to make my brush smaller. So I'm using the shortcut, the square bracket. And then I'm going to go into hide. I need to flip the colors. Black needs to be first. So I'm going to go in here, and as you can see, I can kind of go in here and soften, right? And just go slowly. Don't go too quick, because then you're going to go in here and, right? So I don't want to do that. And you might have to go smaller as you move into it. You might have to go back and fix more, but I think it's easier, to be honest with you, the other way, okay, that I showed you. And then we have this here, and then once again, you can add a new color background. I'm just going to choose roughly the same color, press OK, and bring it below. And here is your image. Again, you want to soften the edges of your pepper. So go into the feathering and just soften the edges a little bit.